Spurgeon here with RevZilla, and today we're going to take a look at the LS2 Rebellion Helmet, available at RevZilla.com. What you are getting with the Rebellion is pretty much a three-quarter style helmet, but there's a lot of features baked in here that is going to set it apart from some of the other simpler helmets out there on the market. So let's break this down as to what you're really getting for this helmet. Now first, what we're looking at is the color. There's going to be three different colors available. There is going to be a black, a matte black, and of course the chrome. The solid colors coming around the $120 price point. You do bump to about the $170 if you want to go to the chrome, but the one thing I will say, it's extremely hard to get a chrome finish on a helmet, and LS2 has done a fantastic job. One of the biggest compliments we have for LS2 is that their finishes on their helmets are usually second to none, and that's going to hold true to the chrome as well. So while chrome isn't my personal style, if you are someone out there that wants a chrome helmet, this is definitely one to consider. Now, construction. Polycarb shell with this, two shell sizes are available. When we threw it on the scale, it came in at 2 pounds 6 ounces in a large. Fitment is probably the most important thing when you're considering a helmet right next to size, and really it's about how this helmet fits your particular head shape. Fitment for this, intermediate oval. What that means for you, it's going to be a little bit longer front to back, narrow on the side of the head, and it's going to work for the majority of the American market. Now this is important because a lot of times when we're looking at half helmets or three-quarter helmets here at RevZilla, they tend to run the round side, which don't always work for riders, with a more intermediate shape. So what riders tend to do is they tend to oversize their helmet and then it becomes too big for their head. So with the fact that this is going to be more that intermediate oval, it will fit your head better and it will allow you to go to the correct size. Now sizes will range from an extra small up to a 3XL. And like I said, there's two different shell sizes for this helmet. So one of the things to note is the breakdown for this. The first shell size runs from extra small to large, and then the second shell size will run from an extra large to a 3XL. Taking a look at the exterior, the first thing you'll probably note is the peak. When I first got this, I noticed that we've got two thumb screws on the outside. So I was like, hey, it's a removable peak, let's pull it off. It is a removable peak only if you break this peak. So what you have is actually going to be glued down the side below the removable screws, and then you have a mount point on the front which actually is inserted into the shell itself. So you don't want to take the peak off and just run it without the peak, but if you do drop it and crack the peak, you can go ahead and replace the peak itself using the screws on the outside with a replaceable part from LS2. Now one of the other features you'll notice that sets the Rebellion apart is going to be the vent system on the top of the helmet. What you have here is you've got one large vent on the very top. Once you open it up, it allows airflow to come through. And when we take a look at the inside, you'll notice that there's going to be two chimney cutaways throughout the EPS liner to help to promote airflow from the front all the way to the back of the helmet. The EPS is going to be a multi-density EPS, and there are 3 different EPS liners available, which will depend on which size you go with. Now I spin this around. The one thing I want to point out, and I just want to kind of stop for a moment, it is a DOT rated helmet. And like I said, this is going to be considered by some a three-quarter helmet and by some a half helmet. When I think of a three-quarter helmet, I think of a helmet that has a little bit more protection that comes down around and just kind of covers the ears a little bit more and covers the back. So depending on how you're looking at this, there is no hard protection that's going to come down and cover over top of your ears. So just keep that in mind. This is going to be kind of a cross between a half helmet and a three-quarter because the back does step down a little bit. But the most important thing for a lot of riders out there that are considering a half or a three-quarter helmet is that it does have that DOT rating on the back. So just keep that in mind. Now as we take a look at the inside, one of the things to note is that there is a lot more going on here than what we would see with a traditional half or three-quarter helmet. First and foremost, it is a ratchet strap closure. Now this is going to be a make it or break it for certain people. Personally, I like a traditional double D-ring, but there's a lot of folks out there that like the simplicity of a ratchet strap, so that's going to be there for you. Now with the interior on this, it's going to be a hypoallergenic interior, soft comfort lining to this. They do a very nice binding around the edge, and the other thing to note is that you've got these additional inserts that come with the helmet. Now this is going to be for the fact that you have 2 different comm systems you can choose for this. You can either use the proprietary Lincoln system, or Sena is going to be developing a system for this helmet as well. And what's nice about these is that these simply snap into place, and once they're into place, the lining on the back works for the Velcro of the speaker pods, and those speakers sit right against your ears, and they snap in quite easily. And there's also the elasticated strip here, which helps to hold the microphone in place in front of your mouth if you go with the comm system. If not, you can still use those to help keep your ears warm as the temperature begins to cool down a little bit. And like I said, the interior on this is going to be that comfort hypoallergenic material, helps to wick sweat away. You do have a little pop of reflectivity at the back. And the one thing I like about this is there's 6 snaps holding it into place, but those snaps are actually up and outside of where the liner hits your head. So there's no undue discomfort coming from where the placement of the snaps are. Once the snaps are undone, the liner simply pops out. And again, simple but comfortable, and it helps to promote airflow. You can see these channeled cutaways within the liner itself helps to allow airflow through. And then when we look at the channels that are cut out in the EPS liner, you can see what I was talking about earlier, where the vents come through from the front, but those channels help to push airflow from the front to the back of the helmet in the actual EPS. Now you'll also notice right along the top here, there is going to be a drop-down sun visor. So one of the things that we'll note here is that the drop-down sun visor, you simply manually actuate it. You simply grab up, pull it down. It does come with the dark smoke. There are multiple colors available. So if you want to go with a clear or a light smoke or a yellow, you do have different options there. The one thing that I liked about this was that it didn't come down and put undue pressure on the bridge of my nose when I was using the helmet. Now there's a lot of riders out there that are looking at a half helmet or a 3/4 helmet, and the features that LS2 is giving you in the Rebellion does help it to stand apart from around that $120 to $170 price point, again, depending on whether you want to go with the chrome option. Now, if you want to hear more about what other LS2 riders have to say, you can always click the info button on your desktop or mobile device, which will allow you to read other rider reviews from folks that are already out there putting an LS2 Rebellion helmet through its paces, or you can give a Gear Geek a call, 877-792-9455, or simply shoot us over an email to cs@RevZilla.com. Thank you for joining us for this look at the LS2 Rebellion helmet. I'm Spurge. Enjoy the ride.